Hi and welcome back to my little corner of the internet. Today we're making a shirt that's inspired from one of the characters in the Nevers. And the way I made this shirt is I altered my Victorian sports blouse pattern to make it look more like the Nevers shirt, where I'm just basically turning it around and closing it in the back and then making sure that everything fits in the front, basically. But this is all the pieces. This is the upper bit with the ruffle and the front that I made bigger so I can gather it. This is the one I made for the shoulder part. It's going to be gathered as well. I just made that bigger so I can gather it. This is the back piece where the closest is going to be. But yeah, let's just jump right into it and see what happens. Just taking one piece at a time, making all the details first before I can assemble it all. This is the collar bit that I'm going to be putting on backwards. And here I'm snipping the corners. So it's going to be looking nicely when turned inside out. So there won't be any bulk from the seam allowance. These are the cuffs, and I'm going to do the same with the corners on these. This is the sleeve. I'm going to be sewing those together, putting in 2 gathering thread. Going to be doing exactly the same on the other one. These are the ruffles. This is the one for the front part. Putting in a little gathering thread. This is the one for the shoulder. I just rounded off the edges to make it not so blunt and make it more feminine. And because the shoulders are so puffy, so it makes more sense that the ruffles are rounded. And now I'm just going to be ironing all the seam allowance from all of the pieces. Just taking one at a time. The ruffle for the shoulder. 2 of those. One of the cuffs. And doing this is going to make the cuffs a lot more square and a lot more nicely looking than if you don't do this part. And this is the collar bit. This can be a bit tricky, especially when you only have a sleeve ironing board, but I always make it work. Use what you have. This is the color. Just look at it. Isn't it lovely? I just love this fabric. Now I'm going to be putting on the ruffle at the front piece, at the upper part. I made this piece twice the length. And I'm going to gather that together, pin that on, sew that, gather together the front piece, you know, the black fabric, and sew that on as well. And I'm doing this over two times to make sure that it's sitting all nicely. And because I didn't make a mock-up of this shirt, so I have to take even more care of how I'm going to put it all together. Be mindful of how I put it all together so I don't make any mistakes. And here's the front piece on as well, all gathered together nicely. Ta-da! Isn't it looking nicely? All gathered together. Just look at this fabric. Okay. And again, I'm ironing all my seam allowance after putting on the back pieces. These are the collar bits. No, these are the shoulder bits. Then we're going to be gathering and putting on the shoulders first before I put in the sleeves. And again, I made these double the length, and they are going to go from one assembly mark to another, just so I had some reference point when putting them in. Just making sure that it's the right size. So I'm just going to pin those on and sew them in. Looking nicely. And here it is, all ready for some sleeves. And I have put on the collar bit as well, on backwards, and it's working, and that's awesome. So yeah, let's put in some sleeves. The whole idea behind this shirt actually came from a road trip with one of my friends, where we had to pee, and then on the way for some place to pee, we found a little fabric store where they had this fabric, and that sparked this idea, and I just took the idea and ran with it, and it's actually turning out pretty well. Sleeves in. And I just put it on my dress form to see if the gathers was okay, if I should pin them, or if I should put in a drawstring or something. I didn't. I'm trying to put on some lace to see if that would look okay. It does look okay, but I ended up not using it. And I'm making a little bow to sit on the bottom of the collar at center front. Because I bought this little lovely cat button, this one, that I'm going to be sewing on. Just look at it, because I thought it matched the fabric pretty well. Yeah, this was my original idea. I ended up taking off the lace and taking off the black buttons and putting those on the cuffs instead. And here I'm marking off where I'm going to put in the buttonholes. That's going to be at center back. I basically just took the pattern piece, the front pattern piece, and copied where the buttons go in, and just copied that on the back piece. I'm making a little one on the cuff where I'm going to be putting those black buttons in. And here I'm just opening up all the little buttonholes, making all the finishing touches before putting it on. And I didn't have a try on beforehand, so when you see me in it, it's the first time I'm putting it on. And I'm fairly happy with this. Well, not fairly happy, I'm extremely happy with the results, but you'll see that in a little bit. Just making sure that the cuff isn't too big on me. Sewing in all the little buttons. And yeah, it's almost done. I love it when an idea turns out so good. That's not always the case, but in this case, it turned out awesome. Just look at it. Just look at it. Ta-da! Ta-da! So yeah, this is my contribution to the Ookie Spooky season. Happy Halloween. If that's something you participate in, I'm going to be wearing the heck out of this one. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!